An iron curtain has descended across the solar system. Hi, I'm Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle now. And Bill, Russian Roscosmos Director Dmitry Rogozin used the phrase the Russian planet to refer to Venus. And says that the Russian Space Agency is planning or would like to launch a mission of their own to Venus at the same time that there's been a proposed mission between the United States and Russia dubbed Venera-D after the frequent or numerous Venera missions that Russia launched, or Soviet Union at that time, launched in the 1960s and 70s toward Venus. It raises some interesting questions. First of all, Dmitry Rogozin is known to be somewhat provocative and sarcastic, especially when it comes to the United States. And the phrase the Soviet planet is apparently something that was used by U.S. Officials, let me say it that way, back in the 1970s, because the Soviet Union actually landed Venera-7 on the Venusian surface, and it melted within seconds. But they've been there, they've done that. Bill, do we need to intervene in who rules the solar system or the planets or the galaxy?
Well, I'm absolutely in favor of orbital laser stations around Venus that would be designed to shoot down any Russian probes that attempt to make a landing on the surface. It's one of the nasty ironies of the design of this particular solar system that the planet is the closest to us in distance, significantly closer than Mars, and also is a virtual twin of the Earth. It's just a few hundred miles smaller, is the worst place in the solar system. It is by far, of all the places you can get out and walk on, Venus is by far the toughest. Its atmospheric pressure is about 100 atmospheres, and the surface temperature is, I want to say, 800, 900 degrees Fahrenheit. They have a genuine greenhouse problem. They have a global warming problem.
Atmosphere is almost completely carbon dioxide.
With some nice sulfuric acid mist thrown in there for good measure. Now, obviously, as many people know, just a few days ago, some scientists announced that after 4 years of careful research, they've detected a marker, and I can never remember if it's phosphine or phosgene gas. Phosphine, yeah. Phosgene was the poison gas that they used in World War I. They found phosphine in the atmosphere, and they did the chemistry, and they could not find a way. Phosphine is a byproduct of organic activity, and it can also be produced under some other geological circumstances, but they ruled those out very effectively. So it's looking pretty likely that in the planet that is probably the most hospitable to life on the surface, it's much hotter than an oven. It's much hotter than an autoclave. You mean? What, I'm sorry, did I say hospital?
Yes.
Hospitable? Sorry. The most inhospitable place in the solar system on the surface may actually have life in the clouds. And even though it's undoubtedly, I'd be astonished, if it is there, I'd be astonished it was bigger than microscopic.
So
but it's kind of
even though the Jetsons lived in the clouds, we're not expecting to find George or any of his offspring there.
No, but there is a Cogswell Cogs factory opening in 2933, and Spacely Sprockets is not going to be far behind, obviously. But what's interesting about this is there is in fact an altitude above the surface in the very dense atmosphere, where atmospheric pressures get lower as you get higher, temperature gets lower as you get higher. There is a belt. There is a distance from the surface of Venus where the temperatures and the pressures are actually pretty good, although the air is still poisonous. And if anything is living there, it's living in this perpetual state of having to be at the right altitude. If it falls too deep, it just becomes sterilized.
So it's interesting that that's where Russia wants to go. In fact, because they've been there before and actually did a soft landing on the surface of the planet before their spaceship melted, Rogozin, the Roscosmos chief, describes the Venus as it is like hell over there. Or at least I think he was talking about Venus and not Russia. Why go back there?
It's so, Venus is so inhospitable that it has essentially been removed from the solar system as far as people's, just as far as the possibilities. It's just gone outside the box few years ago, I talked to some people who were active in space, and I said, why don't you guys do a flyby mission to Venus? They looked at me like I was from Mars.
Mariner 2 did that in 1962.
Yes, but a flyby mission to Venus can be done much faster and much less energy because you're going down, not up, although you have to come back up, and it's closer. And you certainly can't land on Venus. You wouldn't really want to, but you could say, hey, we went to another planet. That'd be something to say. So look, Soviet Union put a marker down on Venus, and the way things turned out, the reason that you can say that Venus is the Soviet planet is pretty thin, but here's how it works. The Soviet Union sent a number of probes to Mars. None of them ever survived the landing. I don't think we ever got a picture back from the surface of Mars from a Russian probe. They sent a lot of probes.
Apparently there was one image they describe as a ground level image, but I don't think it was taken from the ground.
From Mars?
I'm sorry, did you say Mars? I meant
Yes,
Venus.
I'm talking about Mars.
I'm sorry.
So my point is the United States sends a bunch of probes to Mars, landers, and with one exception, they've been really successful. So we have got lots and lots and lots of pictures from Mars, and the only people that are down on the surface of Mars is the United States. The Europeans have an orbiting probe, but the only ones that have ever been down to the surface of Mars is the United States. So Mars is the American planet, and Venus. What I'm trying to say is that the Soviet Union sent out probes to Mars and to Venus, and the one on Venus survived for less than an hour. But since it was the only picture that ever came from the surface of Venus, they get to say it's the Soviet planet only because all of their Mars probes failed.
So really, it's just this competition to try to get a planet. I guess one might ask, what do you think is more likely? Russia gets back to Venus before Elon Musk puts a band of high band internet satellites around Venus?
Well, if the Russians land on Venus, they'll be staying at a hotel casino complex that was put there by SpaceX. Venus is an real interesting problem. It seems to me that Venus got into trouble because Venus didn't survive long enough to have life really take root, and nobody really appreciates this. But what life does is it becomes life is a feedback mechanism that keeps the climate of a planet more or less stable, and without that, you can get these horrible runaway conditions. The surface of Venus is just as a small example, the air is so dense on the surface of Venus that the refraction of the air means that no matter where you're standing on Venus, you appear to be standing in a bowl because the air is just so incredibly dense. It's like I say, it's 800 or 900 degrees temperature, not a fun place to go. So the problem with Venus is there's not really a whole lot you can do with it. If it turns out that there is life in that temperate zone, in the same way that Venus is just very on the near side of what they call the Goldilocks zone, it's close enough to the sun to be warm enough, but not too hot to be molten. That's the atmosphere doing that. But if there's a zone around the planet at a certain altitude where the temperatures and pressures are able to sustain life, then we need to go there because there's a fair chance that life from Venus actually came from Earth. Sometimes a meteorite strike will put enough material up into space and it'll eventually get to another planet. And there's also a significant chance that the life on Earth actually came from Venus.
So in that first part of the argument, it sounds to me like you're saying that we've been looking for aliens all this time. We are the aliens.
Could be. We could be the aliens. I think the solar system, probably billion years ago now or more, there's certainly no question that Mars was once much more Earth-like than it is now. And I think pretty compelling evidence that Venus was too, before it started to develop this runaway greenhouse effect and so on. The only problem with that was Earth wasn't very Earth-like back then. The thing, this is like just a personal thing for me. But the reason that there's intelligent life on Earth is because of the moon. And the reason that I don't think there's any intelligent life within thousands of light years from us is not because the fact that the Earth is so rare. it's because of the fact that the Earth-Moon combination is so rare.
You're one of those lunatics we've heard about.
I'm going to do an entire thing on why the moon is necessary for any kind of advanced life. It's just astonishing when you really break it down.
So final question.
But good news.
Go ahead.
Anyway, for them.
Okay.
No, I was just going to say good news about Venus.
So final question. As we get further and further away from Mother Earth and start to explore other worlds, it does get into a question of jurisdiction, which we've discussed in the sense of Earth orbiting objects previously on episodes of either Right Angle or Bill Whittle now at BillWhittle.com. But this one is really further afield, and we say, is it the country that manages to land the craft on the planet that is able to have some sort of jurisdictional dominion over that planet? Should the UN be the overseer of that or the resolver of disputes with regard to that? How do you settle that?
Well, that was the original vision when by the time we got into the 60s, people were thinking, well, the UN really may be the world government that people kind of hoped it would be, and that all the other countries in the world would kind of rise to Western standards of democracy and progress and so on. And it turned out that just the opposite is true. The UN is designed to basically make every country on the same level as Cuba.
Well, it may not be the world government, but some world's government.
Well,
not
but
this
my
world.
my point is that the United Nations is utterly useless and has been for 30 years. So the question is jurisdiction. And the United Nations approach to this, I think it was the Outer Space Treaty of 1968, basically they were saying this kind of world United Nations kind of view of things is that everything out there belongs to everybody on Earth. And I utterly, completely disagree with that. My feeling is, hey, if you want some of the stuff out there, you can go get it.
So the Russians may be the Venus Sooners, so to speak.
That's precisely correct, and that's a great analogy, actually, because not only do you have the idea that whoever gets there first, there's just so much stuff out there, so much stuff. But whoever gets there first, I think, has a real strong claim to at least a certain area around it. I don't think we have a right to claim the entire moon. I think just the near side would be enough. And then, but seriously, if you go out there and you put something down on an asteroid and you start mining an asteroid, and you're out there spending, billions of dollars to get there, and you're coming home with trillions of dollars, I don't see what Mozambique or Mongolia or Ireland, for that matter, gets a piece of that. If they want something, they can go get it. So the other thing that you've got too is you've got this kind of frontier. It feels like it's going to feel like the Western frontier in terms of who gets there first. And the only reason I think it's going to be that way is not because there aren't any laws. There's plenty of laws. The question is, how the hell do you enforce those laws? So how are you going to enforce the fact that somebody's presumably trespassing on somebody else's property? You start to get into some issues that I think actually are the kind of things we should be back into again, frontier kind of mentality. And one nice thing about space is you can't be stupid and live in space at the same time.
And the natural rights of whoever's generating all that phosphine gas will be trampled in the process.
We will turn them into algae cakes for our colonization efforts.
They may already be algae cakes. Ladies and gentlemen, we're grateful for you watching this program. We invite you, if you're watching it on YouTube, to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. However, as you may have heard, and I got a complaint about this today, YouTube is no longer sending email notifications about new videos that get posted. However, members at BillWhittle.com get email notifications, and that's because they are the team that produces these programs. They get first crack at them. We are grateful to their contributorship. If you'd like to join them, you can go to BillWhittle.com and click that big green Become a Member button. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.